I grew up thinking bikes were engineering magic. Much to the chagrin of my parents, I'd often take things apart and be unable to put them back together. In particular, the clicking noise that bike hubs make when they're freewheeling always really had me curious about what was going on inside of there. It wasn't until I got a job at a bike shop when I was much older that I finally had the tools to take them apart and figure out what was going on inside. Now, the DT350, with its genius simplicity, was one that really blew me away. If you've seen our videos on something like the Onyx hubs or the Industry 9 Hydra, you'll know the amazing advancements that teeny machined pawls and sprag clutches can bring you. The DT350, on the other hand, has never really been much to write home about in terms of its looks or its features. It has, however, withstood the test of time as a very easy to own and highly reliable hub. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the ratchet mechanism that makes DT's hubs so simple and so easy to own, and we'll also take a look at the brand new DT350 as well as the new 240 EXP. The ratcheting mechanism that makes DT hubs so special is this. It's simply two metal rings with splines on the outside and ramped teeth on the inside with two large metal springs on either side of them. The splines on the outside serve to keep the rings from rotating within their housing, and the ramps on the inside will push the rings away from each other in one direction and allow them to freewheel. And then in the other direction, the springs push everything together and cause those ramped teeth to lock and move the whole hub forward. Now, it's a design that is not really affected by some dirt and some grime. It doesn't have teeny tiny little parts that can break or again get damaged by pieces of dirt getting in there or something else, and it has withstood the test of time. In fact, the original US patent for this design was filed in 1995, so that was 26 years ago, and it's been licensed to huge OEM brands like Revolve from Specialized or Bontrager from Trek. So it's been used in hundreds of thousands of hubs all over the world. People are quick to point out that this design does max out at 54 points of engagement, however, and that's only if you upgrade your ratchet system. The previous generation 350 came stock with only 18 points of engagement, and the new one does have an upgraded set and uses 36 teeth ratchets. Now, high engagement is cherished by people who love techie, challenging climbs, and is generally seen as a hallmark of high performance hubs like the 690 points on the Industry 9 Hydra or the infinite engagement on Onyx Vespers. Now, might that actually detract from a downhiller's riding experience? That's actually the argument that DT Swiss makes, is that these high engagement hubs are impeding with our rear suspension. So let's take a quick look at what they're saying there. For most modern full suspension bikes, the higher the engagement of your rear hub, the more your front pedal kicks back as you move through your travel. Now, with our feet on the pedals, we prevent that from happening, which effectively impedes on the suspension action of your rear wheel. In a world where most of us are riding for the downhills, that's a pretty compelling argument to not run a high engagement hub. Now, does that mean you should go and trash your fancy new Industry 9 Hydra or Onyx Vesper wheel set? I don't think so. In my experience, you pretty much get used to what you're riding, whether that's an 18-point engagement 350 or an infinite engagement Vesper. However, if you're a downhill-oriented rider and you're working on a new wheel set, I think the new 350 or 240 is something you should definitely be considering. So let's take a look at them. Externally, the new 350 is vastly different than the previous generation. The cosmetic differences are immediately obvious, with the new one having this lovely matte finish versus the old glossy finish. You can see on closer inspection that gone are the vinyl decals that were always on the DT hubs. They have been replaced with a water slide decal, which is permanent, so you can't replace the decal, but with these newer, classier looking graphics, I don't think you'll want to. Moving in from the outside, you can see that the end caps have a notched rim here on the edge, which actually makes them substantially easier to remove than the previous smooth ones. And actually these are compatible with previous generation DT350 and 240 hubs. So if you lose one on your old hub, that would be an easy upgrade to make. From there, we see quite a bit more machining going on the new 350. The brake rotor tabs have been very machined out, which we'll see are much more similar to the 240. And they have this angular, pretty cool looking appearance now. And we see that the non-drive side hub flange is also cut out now on the new 350. This all helps drop 14 grams from the new to the old, or vice versa. The last difference that we'll see, cosmetic difference, is that the diameter of the hub, the new hub, is quite a bit larger than the old one, which has to do with how they've placed the bearing in here, although the location has not actually changed. The axle itself inside here is near identical. It's functionally the same, so nothing has changed there, which kind of speaks to the functionality of the hub as a whole. There's not much different in that regard. One big difference that is worth noting, though, is that the new 350 is stocked with the 36 tooth ratchet, the super light version of it, which is essentially hollow, versus the old 350, which had an 18 tooth ratchet, and it was the heavier non-hollow version. That's typically a $100 upgrade. This new 350 is only $40 more than the old 350, which makes it a huge bargain to only pay $40 extra for a lighter weight, better looking, higher engagement hub. Historically, weight has been the primary advantage with DT240 hubs over the 350 model. That is still the case, and you save 42 grams with the microspine drive 240 versus the 350. With the new version though, DT has launched what they call the EXP ratchet, which is actually significantly different than the previous model. In this design, they have changed the system from having two independent teeth that float inside the hub and ratchet against each other, and they have made one of them into a fixed ring that is built in to the hub shell itself. They now have one floating ratchet with a spring behind it. This reduces the number of parts that you have in the system and allows them to make things lighter by using a hollow design, entirely hollow design, in one of the ratchets, and the floating ratchet with a single spring, and a very hollow fixed ratchet. It has also allowed them to install the hub bearing, the drive side hub bearing, into this ratchet itself, which you can see in there, and that in fact makes the two hub bearings sit further apart than in the traditional ratchet design. This better loads the bearings, and all else equal is going to result in longer bearing life. It's a pretty significant improvement. Now, it's worth noting that on early iterations of the new EXP hubs, they did have some issues wherein the ratchet would bind within the hub driver. They have since remedied that. They found that it was the surface treatment they were giving to the ratchet was sometimes making it stick in there and causing issues where people would have a hub that didn't engage at all. If you have one of those earlier hubs and find that you start to encounter that issue, hit us up or hit DT Swiss up, and they will simply replace the internals and have you back on the trail in no time. As far as changes between the old 240 and the new, the EXP ratchet is the big one. Despite the similarity between these two designs, it is actually a little bit louder, as we can see here, comparing the new 240 to the 350. These are both brand new hubs with the factory grease installed. Now, I suspect that that is because the single spring that they use in here is exerting a little bit more force than the two springs in the free-floating older design, and that's simply making those teeth push against each other in a harder way. Could have something to do with reverberation, I don't know. But if noise is a consideration for you, this might be the ticket, or if less noise rather. Lastly, there are a number of cosmetic differences from the new 240 to the old, and it has a much more angular, clean finish than the previous one. It's got the same black matte coating and the water slide decals that are now permanent, and an even more drilled out, clean look than even the 350, with some extra material taken off the brake tabs as well as the non-drive side hub flange. If you're looking to build up a new custom wheel set, which hub to pick? Well, if downhill speed is important to you, either one of these hubs is going to be a great option because of that engagement that decreases the amount of pedal kickback you have and increases the performance of your suspension. If you want all-out best downhill performance possible, the 240 is going to be the best option because it does weigh less than the 350. Unsprung weight, which is weight that's hanging off your swing arm, for example, does make a notable difference in how quickly that swing arm can change direction and keep your wheel tracking the ground. So in that case, go with the 240. However, this hub is over $200 more expensive than the 350, which is a very lightweight hub itself. It is in fact 16 grams lighter than the lightweight Industry 9 Hydra hub, which weighs 295 grams. So still a very, very good option. Now, if noise or loudness is a consideration for you, we saw that the 350 is quieter than the EXP equipped 240. Another consideration there. I think all in all though, regardless of which one of these hubs you pick or any of the hubs we carry, you will be very, very stoked with one of our hand-built custom wheel sets. Now, I do want to hear from you to hear which of these variables is the most important for you when you're selecting a new hub. Is it weight? Is it cost? Is it how much engagement you have? Let us know in the comments below. I do hope you've enjoyed learning about the Ratchet system and DT Swiss's new hubs as much as I've enjoyed explaining it all to you. If you like watching these videos, please do subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep making them, and we'll see you next time.